All right, today we're going to break down the powerful and honestly pretty counterintuitive wisdom of the entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant. We're going to lay out a roadmap from his core principles on how to build a life that is not just wealthy, but also genuinely happy.
So let's just jump right in and tear apart one of the biggest lies we're all told about work. This idea that you can get rich just by climbing the corporate ladder, selling your hours for a salary. It's just fundamentally broken. Naval's first principle is that you will never get truly wealthy by renting out your time. No, the only real path is through ownership. You've got to own a piece of a business, a product, an asset. That's the game you want to be playing.
Okay, so how do you escape that time for money trap? Well, you've got to start thinking about it like a game. And the very first step in winning any game is understanding the rules. This isn't about outworking everyone, it's about seeing the board with total clarity.
First things first, we need to get our definitions straight because Naval is super precise about this stuff. Wealth isn't just a number in your bank account. No, wealth is the machine that produces the money. It's the software that's running, the investments that are growing, the systems that are generating income for you while you're sleeping or on vacation.
And money? Well, money is just the transfer vehicle. It's how we move all that wealth around. You know, chasing money is like focusing on the delivery truck instead of the actual goods it's carrying. It's just the tool, it's not the prize.
And then there's status. And let me tell you, this is the most dangerous distraction of them all. Status is all about your rank in the social hierarchy, and it's a zero-sum game. For you to move up, somebody else has to move down. It's this nasty trap that pits us against each other, when the real game, the wealth creation game, is one where we can all win.
So here's the bottom line. You gotta ignore the status games. Use money for what it is, a tool. But focus all your energy on building true wealth, assets that work for you. That is the only real path to freedom.
Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? How do you build these assets that generate wealth? Let's get into the practical framework for making this happen, right here, right now.
Well, it really boils down to this three-step formula. First, you have to find your specific knowledge. This isn't stuff you learn from a textbook. It's that weird, unique thing that you're obsessed with, that you're naturally good at. Then you have to learn how to either build a product around that knowledge or how to sell it to people. And finally, you apply leverage to scale it, using things like code or media that can work for you 24/7 without needing to ask anyone for permission.
And this quote right here, man, it just perfectly captures the engine of modern wealth. If you can create something of value, that's the build part, and you can communicate that value to the world, that's the sell part, there's pretty much no limit to what you can do. But here's where things take a really important turn. Naval is super clear on this. A mountain of cash means absolutely nothing if you're miserable. He doesn't see happiness as some reward you get for being successful. He sees it as a completely separate skill that you have to practice and cultivate.
And this next idea, it just completely flips the script on what we think happiness is. We're always taught that getting the thing we want will finally make us happy. But Naval's philosophy is that the very act of wanting, that's the source of our unhappiness. It's like a contract we sign with ourselves to be miserable until we get it.
You see, he argues that true happiness isn't that roller coaster high of excitement. It's more like a steady, quiet peace. It's the feeling you have when you remove the sense that something is missing from your life. And the most important part, it's a skill. You can practice it and get better at it, just like learning an instrument.
He really boils the foundation of a good life down to these three things: a mind that isn't constantly racing, a body that's healthy and strong, and a home that's filled with love and connection. And notice something really important here. You can't buy a single one of these. You have to earn them. And that brings us to this huge idea that ties everything together, both wealth and happiness. And it's this: they're not achieved overnight, not even close. They are the result of playing the long game.
You know, we all get compound interest when it comes to money, right? But what's mind-blowing is that this principle applies to everything. Your knowledge, your relationships, your health, your reputation, they all compound. The small, consistent things you do today lead to these massive, almost magical results 10 years from now.
I mean, this is such a powerful way to reframe everything. Success isn't about these crazy bursts of intensity. It's all about consistency. It's about finding the right games to play and the right people to play them with, and then just having the patience to stick with it.
Okay, so if we're all in on playing this long game, then our day-to-day choices suddenly become, well, a really big deal, right? How do we make sure we're making the right calls that keep us on that compounding curve?
And this is where he gives us two simple, almost shockingly powerful rules to just cut through all the confusion. Rule number 1. If you're agonizing over a big decision and it's not a clear hell yes, then the answer is no. And rule number 2. When you're facing two paths that look about equal, always pick the one that's harder in the short term. That's almost always where the real growth is.
And you can totally see why these rules work, can't you? They force you to save your time and energy for only the things you're genuinely fired up about. They filter out all the met opportunities and make you choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. They're basically the steering wheel for playing the long game.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea of all. It's a reminder that at the end of the day, all this stuff, the wealth, the status, it's all just external noise. Life isn't a multiplayer game where you're competing against everyone else. It's a single-player game. The only scorecard that actually matters is the one you write for yourself. So I guess the real question to leave you with is, how are you going to define when